back to another episode of the Chronic Couch. We are moseying our way through season two very slowly because we are the Chronic Couch, and y'all know how we get down at limited speed nowadays. Uh, Very special guest today, y'all, and I don't say that lightly. I mean, we have a lot of great guests on our show, but today's guest is another person who I also share a lot in common with, a lot of good things, and unfortunately, a pretty rough thing. So we've been tracking down people with injuries and illnesses that are not only rare, but just really cause you to kind of refocus or reframe your perspective on life. And today is no different than that, right? So, without further ado, our guest today is Rey Reynolds, aka Ray Gatsby, on Instagram. You can find him out there. But a little information about Ray, and then I'll toss it over to you, bro. But Ray's from Philly, went to Lower Merion High School. So, for those of our basketball fans out there, y'all probably know somebody else who went to Lower Merion, and then went on to play at Villanova with some other names that you are probably familiar with if you're a basketball fan. And after that, went on to play professionally. So that's a very high level overview because, like I said, I literally just I kind of want to give people the context, and I want you to fill in the blanks because we're going to go through obviously your entire life up until that point. And then we obviously going to touch on what you got going on now because, in my opinion, like we just talked about off camera, that is, I feel like, the most exciting and fulfillment part that you couldn't see yourself at nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, no. That's a great way to say it. I don't always feel like I would have like got to this point after my injury. I don't know about you. Like I'm happy that when we met, it was like you were at a place where it's like, all right, you're just starting this, and there is a how do I put it? An optimism towards the future. I got to be honest, I didn't have that. Like you have such a positive energy that I love. I could hear. Greg had said the same thing. That the guy who connected us. Sorry, I just said that. Like Greg's on here. I'm sorry, but the guy that connected us, he had said the same thing about like just a great person, just a very intelligent dude. And like when I heard your energy as you talked about it, I was like, this is amazing. Like this shit inspired me back again. So I was like, this is great. So thank you, bro. Thank you for having me on.
Oh no, of course, absolutely. But yeah, like I said, it's season two. I mean, y'all already know y'all can't hear Eric, but just know he's lurking. He's on mute. He's on
I'm
mute
here.
for the
I'm
moment.
here.
He's here for everybody that's listening to us. But no, right, but let's hop into, I mean, just kind of like your upbringing because I think it's
Mhm.
important for our viewers. We always love to paint the entire picture.
Yeah.
So, let's take it all the way back to growing up in Philly and just how you got started on life up until basketball kind of, went away from being the main thing.
Um, I think for me, I'm from South Philly, and I say South Philly because that's the place where I spent the most time. But me and my mom, we moved around a lot. Um, when she had, her and my stepfather got together and got married or whatever, that was when, and that was mostly in South Philly. That was when like my life had some stability, but it was a lot of moving around when we was younger. Um, and basketball didn't really come into the picture until 15. I would say before that, it was really like movies. I really love movies and film. Obviously, being from Philly, we were aware of Will Smith and what he was doing. I, was a baby, but still, like, that was when I became conscious. Like, as Fresh Prince was still on TV and it was still being reran. And I remember The Martin Show was a big influence on me. And Jim Carrey, I really liked television, but I like these animated characters. And in this weird kind of way, because I'm weird for Philly. Like, I'm not a weirdo, but I'm weird for a lot of Philadelphians. Just my energy and the way I look at life. And like, I'm like, I want to listen to Sam Cooke and Nat King Cole. And it's like, no, bro. I mean, like, turn the meat back up, man. What you doing? Like, I've always been kind of like the oddball. Film brought me a certain amount of comfort. And in some ways, I remember like being like, I wonder if I have more relation with them than the people I'm around. And his family included, not like in a bad way, but just, I do remember like there was a loneliness. And then basketball happened at 15, and that was when it was like it clicked. And the loneliness stopped because now it's people around me and things are around me. And I started late. I was terrible. Like I was terrible, man. Like I got tall quick, so I wasn't really that good with my body yet. So I was awkward. I was uncoordinated. But just I remember it was it was something like I could just unplug in a way that I couldn't do it anywhere else, that the game almost became addictive. And then it was like, wait a minute, you can get good fast at this. You can have a bad shooting day on Monday, and by Wednesday, you back at it. You know what I mean? And that was like, that was very interesting to me. Like, that was very like, man, you could really pick this up fast. It was the instant gratification of a shot goes in and that little bit of, that little dopamine hit. So, not that I knew that back then, but it was just, I like this. I'm a kid. It's helping me figure out my confidence. So when ball really started, it was like, all right, I'm on this for real. Like, this is really what I'm doing. This is really what I'm going after. Like, everything else kind of, you know, gets put back down. Everything else falls to the back burners. And it's like, this is it. This is me. This is my life. This is what my life's supposed to be. This will help me and my family. Everything, it kind of became my whole identity. And I'll say it now, I feel like that's why I got injured. I feel like God was like, you need to, I have to peel you away from this in a way that won't let you snap right back, or won't let you muscle your way or just thug your way back out there. Like, you really gonna have to sit down on the sidelines and look at life outside of the scope of this game. Because I started so late and felt behind, you had a competitive edge on top of that and insecurities on top of that. And you have this like individual that's just hyper focused on basketball. I remember one time I was in the basement, my rope broke. I'm down there faking jumping rope, and like the doorway, my stepfather come down like, "The hell are you doing? Like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on with you?" But it was like, listen, the coach told me I got to work on my second jump for tip dunks, block shots, and rebounds. Like Dennis Rodman, when he would jump 2-3 times, I got to do it. The rope broke. Like, I was just so obsessed over it, and it became like the focus. And then, lo and behold, parents' jobs changed. Got a chance to move out to the suburbs. Now I'm at Lower Merion. I started at Martin Luther King High School. You can imagine how that was. Just think of an inner city and how, you know, the high schools with the black leader names. Just, if you know, you know. So I started at Martin Luther King High School, and then I end up at Lower Merion, and now I have the resources to feed this hunger. You know what I mean? Like, I have this engine in me. I'm ready to go, and now I'm in the environment that's going to cultivate it. And that was when it just, you know what I mean? That was kind of the springboard. So that was pretty much it up until when ball started. I ain't about to do the whole spiel because it's just going to be one big monologue. I think that was long enough for an intro. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for that assist.
Ray, you mentioned a lot there, and that was all very, very interesting. And I had some moments that brought me back. When you mentioned when you got injured and you felt that feeling of being pulled back, someone was looking out for you and made you go back from your sport. How was that when you were 15?
Hell no. Oh my gosh. No.
All right. When was the injury? I
didn't specify. I'm so sorry.
Right.
When I say when I got injured, I mean at the end. Like, bro, I'm still fighting back from this injury. I got hurt in 2018. So I got hurt after college, after my first year pro. I got through my whole first year over there safe. You know, I twisted an ankle in the beginning. That was it. Got back May 1st, 2018. I got hurt May 30th.
So it's safe to say that your biggest injury, most impactful injury happened in your adult life.
Yeah. First surgery, yeah, like all of that. First time being cut open, like everything. I had never been out that long. I had never had something that substantial. Because like I said, I started so late and it just took off. But yeah, those last couple of years of high school, I had like a sternum injury in college. That had me out for a little while, but nothing that crazy. Nothing nearly that crazy.
Okay. That's interesting because I've never spoken with someone in that situation. You know, for me being a gymnast and starting when I was like 5'6",
yeah,
and the serious injury started, early on, broken bones. It's interesting. I just wonder how, and this could be a whole episode in itself, so we don't have to keep it going, but how in that of itself, the difference of where you are mentally as a kid and getting injured and the impact that has on you in your future and moving forward, versus, because when you're laying in a hospital bed when you're a kid,
yeah,
almost like they say kids are resilient. I guess that's what okay, I got
Yeah.
my there. It's almost like, I bet it's harder getting injured as an adult because you're more aware of life. You had mentioned maybe you kind of went through some shit when you were growing up.
Yeah.
So you dealt with life early on.
Yeah. It's so funny as you're on the side of it as somebody who started when you should. And like you said, you're a gymnast. To be a gymnast when you're older, you have to have the fundamentals from way back then. That was the beauty of basketball. I didn't need this huge toolbox of fundamentals and coordination skills that, your body grew into like gymnasts did. My cousin's a gymnast. He was acting like American Ninja Warrior. He's still using it. You know what I mean? But like he was the star athlete. We were children. I didn't do anything. I don't know the other reality though. I don't know what it's like to be that young in a hospital bed because of a sports injury. But being, the mischievous kid that I was, I do remember what it's like being there in the cast because I broke my arm at recess, or I twisted a pinky or something crazy. So I remember that experience, but never being taken out of my sport, never being taken out of my zone. And like I said, of Chris of having such a positive attitude about it, and Eric, I'm actually interested to see how you felt during the beginning of yours. I know I'm y'all guest, but I'm here to learn as well. When I got hurt, there was a delusion of how soon I would get back. I think if I would have known how bad it was when it happened, ooh, you know what I mean? Like, ooh, I think it was one of those, my naivete about the situation, just like going into basketball where it's like, you gonna start at 15 and play at what level? Are you crazy? And it's like, I'm not smart enough to know I'm crazy, so I'm gonna just go. You know what I mean? And it's like, that was what happened with the injury. I was already setting up the talk show that started my broadcasting career before I got hurt. I was writing the sketches for it overseas. Like, I got an idea. I think this could be the thing that I do in the summer when I come back, because I had a journalism degree, and I knew it was going to be something behind the camera or something in front of the camera, or maybe a combination of both. But I had the idea for what threw me into broadcasting before I got hurt. And then when I got hurt, it was like, all right, let's double down on this. Now this is your life in the meantime. So I thought. And then you look up 5 years later and you still don't have function of certain muscles. And it's like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is over. You know what I mean? Like this is over. I mean, I'm not gonna say 5 years. It was pretty much I want to say 2021. Like when I left, around the time I left Philly, because I left Philly in 2021 and I got out here early 2022. I had a little stop in Phoenix. I would say Phoenix was kind of the purging of the basketball is really behind me. I'm not going back, because even if I make it back in time, I'm the old guy. You know what I mean? And I've made so much headway in this career that why would I go back?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great too that you called on that, because I think sometimes a lot of people, they really try to just barrel past that purging moment, right? And they don't really deal with the grief of a loss, of a career, of a relationship, of whatever it is. So,
of a life,
of an entire identity, like you had mentioned. But I want to kind of fill in the gaps here for a little bit, because I don't want to in no way sell the basketball situation short. Ray is a national champion. Ray got him an NCAA March Madness one shining moment situation going on. And then again, like he mentioned, playing afterwards in Poland, and then afterwards coming back. So again, like I said, I wanted to let the audience know that, you are a champion. I think that's always important, of course. And now let's go to May 30th.
Yeah.
2018. Talk to us.
So it was this weird kind of it was this churning of I call it the cosmic weather. First and foremost, just my faith is Islam. I'm a Muslim man. But there was a time where I wasn't practicing. I was raised in it as a kid. Like, I remember fasting in elementary school. In my teenage years, me and my mother really studied the zodiacs. So I have a high awareness of astrology and astronomy, and just to study the stars in general. And then right after college, I had an experience that brought me back to my faith in Islam. But I can't act like I don't know what I know. So I joke about the cosmic weather. But like the same way that, you know, we got these injuries now, if it's about to rain, you feel it. You know what I mean? Like you feel it, like your joints start to ache because the science behind it is the atmospheric pressure, aka the water, is pushing down. It's more of it in the air, so it's condensing against us, and it's like, all right, our joints are getting impacted by it. That's what that is, or they're swelling. To me, it was the same thing, like on another level. I don't know how to describe it, but the same way that our joints ache when it's about to rain, something in my soul was like, yeah, like you, like get ready, not get ready for a hard time, but it was my version of the desert. I remember one of the last homilies that the priest had gave at Nova for one of my last games my senior year. He was talking about like Moses in the desert, and I'm Muslim, so this only relates to me so much, but I gotta respect it. This story, it doesn't matter who's telling it, who's the main character. The story is the story. The lessons are the lessons. And I remember him saying that, and in 2017, I actually got cut from the summer league team, and I was like, "Damn, this is the start of that desert." I made the summer league team and then got cut from it because Furcon came on. God bless him. But it was just, it was just this like, it was just this feeling deep down of like, I feel like life is about to change, and I'm thinking it's about to be like this. I'm thinking life is about to take off because I went to Poland, I got back in touch with my faith, I came back in great shape, I had a great year over there. Nova was a lot of success, but I didn't have an individual identity at Nova. In Poland, I figured that back out, and I figured out how to bring the two together in a way that made me more valuable than ever. And to me, it was basketball had clicked. So I'm thinking this whatever this churning is about to have me on the other side of a Sixers jersey. You know what I mean? That's what me coming out on the other side of it was, and it did, just not the way I thought it did. I wake up at like 3-4 in the morning, May 30th, and I couldn't sleep. And I drove straight to Nova. I had the code, so I got in. I'm like a fresh alum at this point. I got the code. I got in. I go in the gym. I'm shooting around. And then it was this eerie feeling all day. And then later that day, I went playing pickup, got in the passing lane. I had a bad, like I was like rusty because I hadn't played in a month. And then like the next game, we was playing, fouls. And I'm like, all right, bet, right off rip. Dude throws a lazy pass. I get in the passing lane, go the length of the court. Dude threw the pass, went in front of me, a Euro, boom, boom. Maybe my big ass shouldn't have been Euro, and maybe that's what the lesson was. Boom, boom, I go. The dude who the pass was going to thinks he's LeBron, so he goes to chase me down, pushes me out of the air. I come down on a straight leg. So imagine like your foot's like this and in the heel. And I just folded over that, John. That was it. But like I said, I didn't know how bad it was. So I'm in the hospital. My homegirl, it's so like, it's just the way things play out. It's crazy. My homegirl had her camera. My homegirl was getting the photography, had her camera, and she just happened to be there that day. So she has like the last picture of me like playing basketball, and she was like in the hospital, and she was like, a video. I'm in the hospital. I got my fingertips touched as I'm in a wheelchair and I'm going through the joint. I'm like, da, 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 da. I'm like, to me, this is all fun and games until I got that report back the next week. And I was like, oh, yeah, like, oh, I really got to think of another career. Like I said, at that point, it was in the meantime. Little did I know, oh no, bro, everything's about to change. And then obviously that was 2 years before COVID. It was a year and a half before COVID. So as soon as I started to get my footing again, the world ends. And it was just a turbulent ass time, man. It was the start of, you want to call it a storm, the desert, whatever, the trial and tribulation period is, like heaviest in somebody's life thus far. Hoping I ain't got nothing else like that coming up. But like, man, that's what that was for me. What do they call it? Your testimony? That's what your testimony is about? Yeah, that was mine. That's the best way to describe it. It was like, you're gonna have something to talk about after this shit. That was pretty much what it was.
So what exactly did you do to your leg? It obviously sounds like you hyperextended it, but what was the diagnosis, and then what was the prognosis?
I tore my ACL, LCL, PCL, ripped off my hamstring, and I ruptured my calf. So everything. And the residual effect was drop foot, which is the neurological dysfunction where your nerves aren't connected. Because the way I fell, your nerves supposed to go like this, right? They're supposed to be chained in so they can get information to each other quickly. The way I fell stretched them to where they were like this. So the first couple years was just waiting for them to get to this point, but then they have to start communicating again. And if they don't do that, then parts of your foot aren't functioning. That's why the way I can describe it to people is, imagine if your funny bones hit the way your arm tingles. Imagine if that got hit so hard that you couldn't use your arm. That was essentially what's happening. And drop foot is where like you go to pick, if my foot goes like this, these muscles are so weak, pulling my foot up right is the hardest thing to do. I'm at a point where I'm over the drop foot, but it's just atrophy muscles. Muscles ain't worked in 5-6 years. They need time to actually, oh, you can do this. Your brain needs time to go, oh, I can do this again. So it was a trip because it put me in this space where walking was now this conscious exercise. You know what I mean? And I had to be cognizant of not walking the wrong way. I actually had a brace at one point with a company called, I think it's called External, but it was a brace that goes on the outside of the shoe, which is way more comfortable than the thing they first gave me. Because the thing they first gave me was like a plate that goes around your shin. Not to shamelessly plug, but if you look at my TED Talk, which all this is pretty much about, you look at my TED Talk, if you look at my left leg closely, you could see it's like, I got something in my pants, because I do. It's like this Kevlar that's Kevlar, that's a push. It's like carbon fiber, but it's like a carbon fiber shield that goes in front of your shin, and then it's like this plate that goes up underneath your foot, but your foot bends. So you're sitting there feel like you're walking on quarters all day because this thing is not flexible. It's just helping you go. It's helping your foot stay like this. The second brace I got was a lot better, but yeah, it's something I'm still fighting back from today because, like I said, the nerve damage. It was first letting those nerves reconnect. Then it was letting those muscles function again. Then it's all right. Now let's get everything going. Like, bro, the hair on my legs stopped growing. You know what I mean? Like my brain was just like, oh, we done with that. You know what I mean? Like I guess that don't exist no more because those nerves weren't even being registered by each other. But you know, the hair, I ain't the hairiest individual, but the hair is back. So it's like, all right, I'm making progress. Yeah, it was great.
You know, Ray, I like to think of myself as somewhat knowledgeable with injuries, just from the simple fact that I was around it all the time growing up, and then having, you know, doctors and my mom in the medical field and people in my family in the medical field. But I have learned so much about the leg injury specifically because, and I had never heard of drop foot until Chris came along. And I've said several times to Chris and to other guests that, and we're actually going to have this guest on, one of my teammates who I really haven't seen since we were kids. And I forget what the injury was, but let's say we were 10 years old and he landed and his leg hyperextended and his kneecap, you know, went, you know, it was a whole thing.
Jeez, yeah.
So I that's why you see me cringe when you're telling me the story, because I think I have a little bit of PTSD from that. So,
it's ugly. It's ugly. It's ugly, man.
So I ruptured my Achilles, but I'm just curious, you don't have to go into full detail. What is a ruptured calf? Does that just mean that the calf disconnects from?
Like at the top, the muscles pretty much just, the way that I fell, you figure, all right, it's pressure. You know what I mean? It's like in our body, we're much closer to pipes than we are to diamonds. So that pressure has to go somewhere. So with me, it was, all right, because of the sheer impact and then the twist, the tendons are going to tear. But you got to figure the hamstring, if the hamstring, like the hamstring and the calf, they like this together. The calf pretty much went boom and just like opened up when the hamstring ripped up. You know what I mean? Like the calf just, he said essentially like, you know, that was where the pressure went out. That was the part of the muscles that was like, you're going to give the most. So my calf, if your calf's supposed to be like this together, mine went like that. And just, you know, so yeah, it's disgusting when you think about it. Sorry.
It is.
As I say it, as I talk about it, I'm like, it's pretty effing gross. But yeah, it just, like I said, it took years to even like I said, like feel certain things and for the hair to start to grow, for my brain to register that we still have that limb. like the I can see the veins back in my foot again. There was a point where it was like the blood wasn't even flowing that much because your body, you understand, your brain is like, I gotta control all these things. I keep calling the foot and he don't answer. All right, cool. What I was going to give to the foot, now the arm takes. Now the, you know, your left arm takes this amount, your right arm takes that amount. We got to put the pressure here. Like our bodies are such amazing machines, in large part because of our brains. That you know, I learned about this through the injury. Neurologically, your brain goes, all right, you know what I mean? Like we have to move on, and that was what my body had did. And it was the weirdest thing. I would have these like chills and kind of like moments where I could feel. The only way I could describe it is, we know this as athletes. I hope you know anybody watching this can understand this, but you know how like when you ain't had water in a long time and you drink water and like your chest, like it just like it feels like the water just runs into every part of your chest. I started having that feeling with my nerves, either that or like a sharp pain. I remember when I first got hurt, it was like it was almost like a signal was trying to be sent and then it just stopped. So I would get these real sharp pains or these kind of like moments of like, oh, okay, my body's like, this works again. I remember when I was coaching, because that was the other thing I jumped right into after I got done playing. I was on staff at Nova 2018 and 2019. So I started coaching that fall. One of the kids on the team, he got a video. I'm in practice, like looking at practice, being dead serious, you know, watching the action. And he's looking at somebody. He walks up to me, he has a clipboard, and he starts rubbing the clipboard against the side of my leg. And I didn't feel it. So I'm sitting there locked in the practice. He's like, and I was like, damn, like it really, like I said, my brain was just like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like I said at the beginning, that's one thing we do have in common. And it's something that is extremely rare, right? Because I think with our type of injury, whenever you have a knee dislocation, I mentioned this before, but statistically speaking, there shouldn't be enough force outside of a motor vehicle to do that damage to the human body.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you are in a situation like this where it's statistically next to impossible,
yeah,
you go through a lot, right? Now, I don't think I asked you this when we talked like the first time. I know we were sending a voice messages back and forth because, you know, I also want to take a second here to pause and just say like Ray was instrumental in just kind of enlightening me. I mean, I've mentioned it on here before because I like to call it advice from the future. So if you're going through some shit, you find whoever you need to. Like you know, Eric's heard me call myself this before, but like in my injury, bro, I've been the black Jason Bourne. I've been chasing motherfuckers down because it's like I need answers, right?
I love it.
I've been kicking indoors. So but yeah, like when you were telling me just about like, oh man, like this is what I went through, and you were kind of just like laying it out. Okay, well, you know, around this time is when I felt this. When kind of giving me the rundown. But one thing I forgot to ask you, and well, we're on the topic because I don't want to revisit it all because, like I said, I want to get on to the positive shit. Is when the actual injury happened, were you in pain or did everything go numb?
No. I was in when it actually happened. It swelled up so bad that it hurt, but it wasn't like agonizing pain. Then I remember when I got home, it was funny. I had a girl I was dating, and then she, you know, was also an athlete. So when I told her what happened, she had kind of knew, like, I know it reached your ACL. When I told her the bottom half of my leg felt like it wasn't connected to the top, she was like, I'll be surprised if it wasn't. But it still wasn't that bad. The most painful thing first was getting the news of all that happened. To hear that on the phone, because, and this is how shit our healthcare system is. The first hospital I went to said it was just a sprain. And like, they just x-rayed it, said it was just, can you imagine if I'm just sitting around waiting for this, like, what the, you know? So then I get the MRI, and it took a while to get the MRI, which was weird, but it was, I'll say this, pause, like, not pause as in the way the kids say it, but like pause as in like time out. There was also this weird, like I said, the same way that I kind of like felt it coming, there was this weird kind of like, why is everything happening in a way that it almost felt like it should have happened? Like the reason my MRI had to be pushed back, it was like thing after thing. But like I said, I got back in touch with my faith at this time. There was this weird kind of like, you're going to have to walk by faith, but you're going to be all right. Just go through this. Like, go through this as much as you can. All right. Time back in. So I I get the call and I'm like, obviously I'm heartbroken by that. I get the surgery at the end of that month. June 20th was my surgery date. And man, oh man, it was the news, and then it was that night after surgery. I came back, I was like, I ain't that bad, whatever. And drugs wore off around like 11. I think I got back probably like 4 or 5. And drugs wore off at like 11. Man, by 1 o'clock, I was in there like, oh no, like I ain't gonna make it. Like I ain't gonna make it. And after a couple of days of taking the drugs, I threw those out. I really got involved with cannabis after that. That was my pain reliever, because those drugs, I could see why it would have me in zombie. I could see why it has people in zombie land, man. Them drugs, you said the word numb. They just kind of numbed me. They didn't numb the pain. You know what I mean? They kind of numbed me as an individual. Don't get me wrong. There's like thresholds of pain where it's like, I need them. But like I said, after 3 days, after kind of getting used to it, I threw them Johns out, and it was pretty much like I just got to burn one or take an edible to just relax my body and my mind and my soul enough to be able to deal with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's important too, because we've talked about that before. I mean, it's kind of just a behind the scenes running joke, but the Chronic Couch, like, we didn't come up with the shit on purpose, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Damn, I
yeah.
ain't changing the color scheme, the green and stuff. Yeah.
It's just like a little Easter egg, So
Yeah.
maybe in season 3 when we redo the image, but no, like it's a real thing. What's up? You got an epiphany for us?
I got to connect y'all with my guy at Sports Cannabis. I got to connect y'all with Jay. I'm not. I don't work for him, so I'm not plugging. But I did at one point. No, I hosted a podcast for him. He was great. Like, if nothing else, y'all just got to rap and get connected, because he's another one who understands what it's like for that plant to save your sanity. You know what I mean? And like, people could say what they want about it. It was put here to help us heal, and it's the most natural way we have. You know what I mean? So I got much respect for the plant. That shit saved my life, and I got connected with Jay at Sports Cannabis through, him hearing about my story. So my fault. I don't know how I haven't even. When you said chronic, it was like eureka. But before then, my brain didn't get it. My fault.
No, you're good. But no, I mean, a couple of things I want to touch on, because I think it's super important. Obviously, with the chronic being an escape for you that is, again, medicinal. I mean, there's a reason why, a lot of these later interviews, you look at Stack, you look at Matt Barnes, anybody that they got on the podcast at All the Smoke, they talk about it being therapeutic, because, again, that inflammation, like those properties that are scientifically proven to help the human body, they're there for a reason. And the more studies that are coming out, and Eric and I have talked about this before, again, I think people have always known about the medicinal usage of marijuana in recovery, but now you're also starting to see the usage of the psychedelics in PTSD. And so, like, there's this new wave of knowledge and forward thinking on the medicinal front and therapies that are really beneficial to the human body. And I think they've been taboo for so long.
I mean, let's call it what it is. They've known that this stuff, it doesn't do you any good as a drug company to let the world know that this stuff's help. It's better for you to make some whacked down version that you can charge people $11.99 for. You know what I mean? And they've known this shit for decades. You know what I mean? They've known. Certain coaches have known it for years. And you mentioned the psychedelics. After I kind of started to recover physically, there was a soul aspect. Like, I was lost. You know what I mean? This is after COVID. Well, this is in the midst of COVID. I'm like, where the hell am I going to go? Am I going to make it through this? Who am I anymore? It was the first time I really had to slow down and deal with the injury, because I was so used to just go. So I went there with the psychedelics too. And that was another thing that it put me in another space. But I can confidently say I'm not here as sound without those two. So, but they know it's good for us. They're trying to make their money.
I do want to give a hats off to you for recognizing the potential bad side effects of pain pills, and you said you took them for a few days and then you threw them out. I unfortunately went down a path of not destruction. It obviously could have been worse, but I definitely learned a lot. So, and I think just bringing that theme up is important, because a lot of people are, handed these, medicines and these painkillers, and of course they do have beneficial effects.
Absolutely.
And I never want to take away from that. They should be used and prescribed as needed. I think if us collectively can just agree, and we that goes without saying, I can pick up on that discard those mofos as quick as possible, and hold on to a few as a stash, and then just keep it moving and find whatever it is. For me, I've leaned on cannabis and THC products a little bit, but the overarching theme for me that we keep bringing up is being outside,
I love that.
In the water, just
I love that.
Really honing in on the natural medicines, and like, to quote you, getting a shot of dopamine however you can. I was on the beach today, and I was in, I'm in a lot of pain, nerve pain, and I was in the water, and it really hit me like a week ago. I'm like, what is happening when I'm in the water and I'm under the water, and you feel the waves crash? It's like all the things you hear about growing up about the benefits of the ocean. But when you're on the other side or dealing with an injury, and you can get yourself to that environment, that natural environment, and the scents and the smells and the feelings, it's just, it's game changer.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, you're so right. It's so funny you mentioned water, and like, I'm a film guy, and obviously I know we're gonna get to that, but like, mankind has ran on stories, like you said, all those stories we hear, when we were younger, but like, mankind has ran on stories, and I think it's so funny if you pay attention to like what's being made and the stuff that's getting pushed ahead in the zeitgeist and in front of people's conscience that like makes sense. And you think about how many huge movies have come out in this decade alone about water. You got Avatar, you had Second Wakanda was about water, you got The Shape of Water back in 2017, I think. The Mufasa movie had focused on his relationship with water and his senses, and it's definitely a time where the world needs healing. And you mentioned, water, and like, obviously people say what they want about him, but the dude's smart on some level. Cat Williams was on, I forgot homie podcast. He was talking about, water being like this kind of like sentient being. Like, we're gonna realize like there's a lot more to water than we think. It's not just some basic element. It holds an energy. And you mentioned being under the water. You got to think about how we come into this world. You know what I mean? I had a very spiritual woman break this down to me, but she was like, when you come into this world, what are you in? You're in a sack of water. You know what I mean? Like, before you breathe air, for real, you know what I mean? We are born and conceived in water. And I feel like I'm from Philly, bro. So I ain't no getting in the water in Philly. And I got out here and I was just like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, I get why people spend all their days out here. I get why people love this. I get why I didn't grow up with beaches. It's nice. It's period. Like, I ain't grow up with being able to see the bottom of the water and none of that. So, and obviously Manhattan Beach and like, South Bay, it ain't the best. But the point I'm making is this water is nicer than it is, in Jersey. But yeah, man, it's been huge, and just being in the water, like you said, the combination of water and these plants and meditation and mindfulness and grounding yourself. Like, I had a point where my recovery had taken a huge step because a homegirl of mine, she was like, your energy is just all up top. You need to go touch earth. Literally, I'm not saying that passive aggressively. I'm saying I need you to literally go take your shoes off and stand somewhere where the grass is lush and plants are growing, because your energy needs to be grounded. And it's like, we at the point, it's so funny, every step in mankind, and everybody thinks they have it figured out. And we're at this point where we think, because all this technology we have, that we're like geniuses, and we're going to find somebody in a couple of years is going to look at us like how we look at people in medieval times. Like, y'all walking around in metal boots. Like, that was smart thing. Like, that was the best y'all could come up with. But the point that I'm making is we're going to get to a point soon where we're able to scan energy and understand energy the way that we can scan an X-ray or MRI. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be machines that are able to capture that, and we're going to realize how real that energy is and how much of it is tied to us being outside, being in the water, being in nature. Like, I remember at one point in my my injury, I was very anxious. Like I'm talking about like sickeningly anxious. Maybe my caffeine intake was too high. It was around COVID. Maybe I was just cooped in the house too much. I BS y'all not. I walk into the woods and it's like a couple of creeks that kind of go through Philly. And Philly is a very green city. People don't, it's a tough place, but like it's the greenest city on the East Coast because it's built on parks. Like there's these huge parks that like stretch from West Philly into North Philly. There are parks that like cut through the middle of it. And I had went down Wissahickon Creek and I went into the woods there. And when I tell you, bro, it felt like if the anxiety were like wet clothes, it was just like, you're done. Here's a towel. You know what I mean? Like just by walking into the woods, I didn't know what it was, but that was kind of the start of me being like, it's nature is the answer in many ways. And being in a place like California is like, you get the best of it.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned that too when you and I spoke on the phone in that same conversation. You were talking about how the salt water and the Epsom
Yes.
salt, it really helped your sensation, your nerves, and obviously
Yes.
that puts your mind at ease, right? So
Yes.
it was very helpful in restoring not only motor but sensory function and getting you back to the point where we're at the end of the conversation. I'll never forget the night because I was sitting on the couch in pain. You were like, bro, this is going to sound crazy, but Chris, the best thing you can do is get back out there and hoop because you have to reteach your mind spatial awareness, movement, all these different things. So like if you could touch on that just while we're on this nature point, I like I said, I can call to mind that exact moment that you told me that, but just to kind of put a bow on that nature's healing force in your recovery before we hop on to like, you know, obviously the stuff that you got cooking now.
You're saying touch on the basketball part of it or just the nature part?
No, just the nature part of it. I think like the recovery, like your recovery from your injury by using nature.
Yeah, it was. So I didn't know it at first. Like I said, 2018, I jumped right into broadcasting and coaching. Like, bro, there was times where I was on the side. Like, it was one game in the Big East tournament. I was on the sideline with Coach Wright and the team. And then afterwards, I was interviewing a young boy from the other team. Kind of a conflict of interest. I was at the end of the bench. Ain't like I was like up yelling. But those first couple of years after my injury, I can't focus on how bad this is. So I'm gonna stay at work, and I was always in studios. I was always in hotels. I was on the move. Like I was getting the broadcast thing cracking. Because I call it what it is. I'm one of the people that always chase the lifestyle, and it was this feeling of if basketball is over, then let me start setting up things to make sure I still have a certain lifestyle because that's what I want. And that's what I value the most: living life. So I was on this like feverish chase because, like I said, before the injury, my mind has been going here. And just off of sheer willpower, I'm like, we're going here. COVID hits. And now you can't just go outside and you're cooped up. And man, that shit drove me stir crazy because it made me realize I am a person that's constantly go, go, go. I love that. That feeds my soul. You know, I got in touch later on with the idea of totems because I do have native in me. The one that came to me was like, that makes sense. Like I need to be out on the move and running around and I am wild. I need that. Like there's a part of my spirit that is just wild and it needs to be out there. And I got a bike a couple months into COVID when they had first lifted the not the curfew, but like lifted like the you can't come outside. It was the summer. I want to say it was like June, right around the time Ramadan ended. I got a bike and man, that it was just being outside. It immediately took me back to my childhood. Like, and it's so funny as you were talking, Eric, about, you know, getting hurt as a kid. I had to address my inner child a lot through this journey. My inner child had to take the driver's seat through a lot of this journey because I was so floored by this injury. And through it was a lot of healing, but I've learned that one of the best things you can do when you're going through a time like this, really in life in general, because a lot of people do lose their inner child, but they don't communicate with it, stay in contact with it, with that part of themselves, shall I say. There's like mad pictures of me on a bike as a kid, and there's mad memories I have, you know, on a bike as a kid. And when I got that bike, man, like that wind whistling past my ears, looking up in the trees, like I said, Philly's a very green city. There's these two roads that line the river. Lincoln Drive and Kelly Drive, and on both sides of them, it's just like mad beautiful scenery. Like when the cherry blossoms come in, it's all up and down there. And just being on that bike, I had a pickup at the time, so I picked the pickup into the city, to like a scenic part, and I just go on that bike, and that was the start of getting closer to nature. Then it was psychedelics, magic mushrooms, getting closer to nature, because the people who gave me that whole rundown told me like the best you could do is in nature. I'm a city kid, so I liked it in the city, but for anybody looking to take that journey and you're going to take that trip, take your ass outside, because you do not want to freak out because of a horn or something. I grew up around it. Like, it looked like my daycare was downtown as a kid. So I was like, some of my earliest memories are being in a city, but I could see why when your senses are dialed to 12 like they are with that stuff, it's a lot freakier to hear somebody with a buzzsaw against something metal, or horns constantly honking, or just the energy that's in a city. Nature, it was just one more thing. And then when I left Philly to come out here, I drove across the country. So I hit Chicago first, but just driving through America, beautiful country, not the most beautiful people, obviously, in every part, but like beautiful country, just driving through. And that to me was kind of when I landed in Sedona, Arizona. And if you don't know about Sedona, Arizona and the energy that surrounds it, look it up. But like I landed there and I ended up on this rock higher up. And it was this feeling like if I died in this moment, I'd be happy. It like literally like laying back on this rock, just sitting there. I was off the shits, but like it was just that for me was the last coming to nature moment that I needed to be like, this has to be a part of my life, and I have to be more conscious of this. So in the crib right now, you know, I got plants and whatnot. It's life, you know what I mean? And I think being around life gives us life. And I think that's why nature is so healing, because we can pull from that life that quite frankly is more than enough to go around. Look at the animals, look at the plants, look at everything else in this world that feeds off what we feed off of. They simplify it. Us as humans complicate shit, but like it's life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's very simple. The game
Yeah,
is very simple, but a lot of people are just getting their own way, and they get caught up in the rat race of, "Oh, I got to chase
yeah,
this salary, I got to chase this girl, I got to chase this life, whatever it
yeah,
is." But life is very simple at the end of the day, but we just choose to complicate it. But
for sure.
for anybody out there who's ever indulged themselves in the psychedelics, obviously one of the byproducts is creativity, because it
Hmm.
allows you to just open up your mind.
Hmm.
So you have this moment in Sedona on top of this rock,
Yeah,
and as you mentioned, that was kind of like your stop in Arizona was your purge moment.
yeah,
Then
man,
you land out here
yeah,
ready for, I mean, not to get too like cheesy, but ready for the show, because
yeah,
you kind of dealt with your old self. You let your inner child do the work. Y'all have been thumb wrestling, arm wrestling, whatever you get down with,
yeah,
and you show up in probably some traffic
yeah.
with so life in LA. How do we get started? I mean, especially again, like I said, you were obviously this entire identity beforehand, but now
Yeah.
you've been able to shed that through your experiences, through your injury, and
Mhm.
now with this new lens per se, how did you become who you are today?
First of all, the traffic thing got me crying, because at first I thought you meant traffic as in like the pecking order out here, how hard it is to break in. I was like, yeah, then it hit me like, oh, he physically meant traffic. And
Amen.
for damn sure. Huh?
I said, Amen, man.
Yeah,
I
man.
get
I
it.
don't. It's so funny. I got rid of my car. I don't miss it. I gotta be honest. I don't. I don't move a lot. I live in a nice area as far as like access to things. And if something get bad enough, I'll take an Uber or something. But like, yeah, out here is different. But yeah, I think so. Like I said, before I got hurt, there was this rumbling. There was something, and I would never know is this external, is it internal, is it a combination of both? But I could tell I was changing. Something in me was changing. When I was overseas my first year, which I thought was going to be just my first year, it turned out to be my only year for basketball so far. I was I was typing, I was screenwriting. I wrote a whole script. I wrote the prequel to The Town. And I could feel that there's a creative part of me that is looking to express itself, but this in basketball I couldn't do it, and especially at a place like Villanova. Like, not to knock it, but Villanova was the Navy, so it was this like, I need you to get in line, I need you to be a soldier, and for creatives, that's not, you know what I mean. Like, that's why Vietnam turned out the way it turned out. Like, you bumping up against the hippies. This ain't the time for that shit. Like, this is time for the creativity to flow and for things to be groovy. So I needed to go get groovy. And it was just like, all right, well, what does that look like? I thought it was just writing. I thought it was broadcasting. And then I realized it was more film. And COVID really just opened up my eyes to Philly has changed. It's been changing. It's been on its way to changing. And this COVID thing is probably like the nail in the coffin for the old Philly. And I'm going to tell you, I knew it once again. I'm going to go back to nature later, but there was a symbolic thing in nature to let me know this shit's over. You need to move on. I had this idea of being this like media mogul in Philly and just like really shutting down the broadcasting thing. And it was this weird kind of like, nah, not quite. Like something's off. Just like, you know, just like basketball. It was just like there's something. At first it was something's missing. Then it was, no, I think I'm going in the wrong direction. And like I said, just going back and healing my inner child and, you know, getting into the psychedelics in 2020. And I think about the energy, where the energy in the world was. So to be plugged in at that point was already on a different type time. You know what I mean? It's one thing to drive fast, nothing to drive fast with rain. It was that. That's the best way I can describe it to you. And I was driving fast in the rain, but I was getting there. I was getting where I had to go quickly. And as I kept digging and kept taking them and kept digging and kept taking them and kept trying to get to like the root of so much of who I was, because for me, it was this identity loss. You go from playing ball every day and you're a ball player to I'm in the sidelines on a suit. And yeah, I imagine myself getting here, but not at 25. You know what I mean? I imagine it being 35, 40. So it was this weird kind of like, I was in this trippy place in life, bro. And through the digging and the healing, I went back to the fact that, wait a minute, once again, my childhood, it was always the movies that did it for me. The movies were always exciting me. The movies were always the thing. When basketball wasn't going well, I wanted to escape. But what I do, I watch a movie. There's movies I've watched so many times. I could talk you through it word for word. I could break down the plot point 18 different ways because movies is just something that's always been there. It was like a joke that, like, you know, I showed up in college in 2013. This was like the last of DVDs. This is like the last of the disc. Like, that was it. Like, by the time we got 2015, like, it was no disc, nothing. But I had a DVD book because, like, that was how much I love movies. And not everything was on streaming just yet, because not every stream, it was Netflix. That's it. It wasn't a bunch of streaming services. Which is crazy to think how far we are 12 years later. Goddamn. But like, it started to hit me like, I think I need to just go ahead and get involved with this movie thing. Sure enough, they're shooting Hustle in Philly, and I get a call. And at first it's like, yo, you want to just help find the stunt double? And I was like, hell yeah. I was like, I'll definitely help y'all find a stunt double. You damn right. Hooked him up with an old teammate of mine that fit the bill. He gets the job. And I get a call a year later in 2021, because they were shooting it during COVID. I get a call a year later. It's like, yo, you want to come on and help? Like, you know, I'm like playing scout. Like, yeah, that guy looks like he's from Philly. Now you want to get a cheesesteak from this spot? Nah, this Freeway song is the one. Like, at first I was that dude. I was literally standing in a room like with like a poster full of people. I was like, oh, this is how it happens. Then they was like, yo, you want to play one of the Sixers? I'm like, what? You goddamn right. So, like I said, I ended up in a Sixers jersey, just not how I thought. At that point, it was like, this dream ain't gonna get no closer to you. There are only gonna be so many productions in Philly. If you really want to do this, you know what you have to do. And I talked to my mother about it. An old teammate of mine, Tony, should know. He had told me, like, bro, just come on. He was out here since 2019. Another Philly dude. Tony was just a great dude, man. Just like he's not my old head, but he's like an older brother figure in the sense of just the way he put me on game and kind of like taught me through things. He was like one of the main ones, the voices to get me out here. My mom was like, you ain't got no kid or no girl or no job pulling you to this place. If you were ever going to do it, this is the time. And then I was wrestling with it, and one of my favorite spots, if not my favorite spot in the city, is called Belmont Plateau. Because I remember being a kid going there for 4th of July, and they shoot off fireworks. But Belmont Plateau is, if you ever watch the Summertime video, when Will Smith and Jazz are on the John, and they're like rocking back and forth, and it's moving, that the part where you see the city in the background, that's Belmont Plateau. So it's like, old heads to be down there with like their loud ass motorcycles and bikes and blasting stuff out their stereos. Kids will be up on the hills, people on 4-wheelers. Like, it's a vibe through and through. there was this big ass tree at Belmont Plateau that, you know, like we went through as high school kids when I was in Little Marion, and we would go party over there. Like this was like just a place. And man, I went there one day, and the tree, rather it was a hurricane or lightning, something had like killed the tree, and the tree was gone. And then there was like 3 smaller trees planted in this place, and I was like, okay, like I'll take my ass to LA. This is it. This is like, if that to me was nature's, what, like God, whatever, Yahweh, Mother Earth, whatever you want to say, way of being like if you know what I mean? Like the movie was in your hometown, and you came here for this place of comfort to find out this goddamn tree got killed. It's over. You know what I mean? Like, move on with your life. So as I moved out here, it just more healing, more digging, more understanding myself. As I got away from Philly, I literally did drive. Just being out here, I did the drive alone because I wanted to be alone and like rediscover myself. And people kept saying, oh, you reinvented yourself. You reinvented yourself with the entertainment stuff and the movie stuff and the broadcasting stuff. And when they would say it, I would kind of squint like, what the hell you mean I reinvented myself? But I realized for y'all, this is new. For people seeing this side of me is new. Like, I remember I did one broadcasting thing, my show, my old podcast, and I was talking to Smile there, and he was like, I didn't see this kid smile once in his whole 4 years at Nova. I guess he was saving them all for this. And I was like, damn, y'all always knew me as this kind of like enforcer, you know, strong, I'm a dunk real hard. Y'all knew me as that guy. And it was like, no, this time is about me becoming who I really am and what I really am. And it even made it over to my name. Is, you know, quick story on my name. In the Islamic culture, the name is supposed to be given to the mother through an angel. My mother knew what she wanted to name me. It's supposed to be Nasir. Somehow I ended up as Daryl Jr. My father doesn't know the story of how we got there. But as you know, as our relationship developed and changed, and I developed and changed, I was like, nah, my own name is appropriate, especially for what I'm doing moving forward, because I am a new person. I'm in a new place. I'm in a new career. And anybody who known me back then will say like, nah, you're different. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that I don't know from back then because I'm different and because we have nothing to vibe about. And, you know, I just start taking shrooms, it changes you. So shit, I'm different. But because of all that, that was when I completely adopted, you know, my nickname, which was always Ray or D Ray. And the thing Ray came from, my signature was D.R.E.Y. So people would look at how I signed that. But it was 2 movies that mentioned a character named Ray. Sugar Ray from Harlem Nights, which was Richard Pryor's character, and everybody would joke, well, I was the old head and the dad of the group and all of that. And Ray, Eddie Murphy's character in Life. And Chris Jenkins will always be like, why you always gotta say nasty shit, Ray? You know what I mean? Like to me, because my nickname was D Ray or Ray. So that was when I was like, okay, let's own this completely. You know what I mean?
Ray, we gotta link up, man, because
hell yeah, man.
You know, I'm in LA too, and I'm from Atlanta. Okay. And you know, I started at Tyler Perry Studios, you know, on a movie.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would love to shoot the shit with you and
yeah.
You know, not only you know, bond over that, but you know, maybe do some healthy trauma bonding over injury.
I was about to say, man, yeah, let's get some extracurriculars.
You know, and I studied journalism and broadcast, and so, you know, similar fields and interests. But before I, you know, make my mic go cold and pass it off to my buddy Chris here, I just want to say, you know, a lot of the episodes, or not a lot of them, but, you know, some of the episodes can get kind of dark, if you want to call it, because the topic that we're talking about, chronic pain, injury in sports, like, yes, there are lots of pros, but there are also lots of cons. Yeah. But why I'm particularly excited for this episode to drop and for people to listen and or watch, you know, I'm just thinking about, you know, podcasts that I listen to when I'm having a bad day, whether it's my injury and or a combination of what's going on, you know, maybe at work. And I'm just excited for people to take this in because, you know, I wrote down like, this is a feel good episode, you know, not what we're talking about, but the energy that you bring. So I'm really excited for that to be relayed to listeners and watchers. So thank you. And yeah, we should definitely link up and kick it and you know, get some
Bro, I
going.
was about to say, first of all, I appreciate it. And I it's so funny when you were saying that the first person that came to mind was Coach Wright after he had saw the TED Talk, which was something that shocked him. He didn't know that I had that in me. But you know, he was like, I like that, you know, you focused on the positive and you had like an upbeat note. A lot of times when you hear, you know, the stories of athletes going through it, you hear about the suicidal part and you hear about that. And not only you hear about it, but they harp on it. That's the part that they focus on. He was like, you've taken this and turned it into a positive. And to me, it's just like, you know, what else are you giving? I feel like when you have an injury that, you know, metaphysically and physically has cut us as deep as we are, as deep as our injuries have gone. When you talk about nerve pain or neurological, you know, deficiencies, or, you know, like Chris with your leg being completely a life-threatening injury, when you come back from shit like that, you're going through a form of alchemy. You know what I mean? Your soul has transformed on another level. You have changed from some of like the deepest places inside out. And to me, it's a beautiful thing. It is the comparison I think about, like the caterpillar and the butterfly. So when I get on places like, you know, like this, I don't ever want to be like, and then it was more of a drag. You know what I mean? Like, nah, bro, we know that part. It's just, it has been a lot of peace and joy, and like harmony, you know what I mean, found through this shit in life, of figuring out the simpler parts like nature and stuff like that. So I'm happy that comes through, because like I said, it sucks, but it's I always think of that picture. I'm not even Christian, but there's a picture of like, it's like a picture of white Jesus, and he's leaning down to this little girl. He has like a big teddy bear behind his back, and the little girl has like a little teddy bear in her hand, and she's like, you know, but I love it. He's like, I know, but it's okay, trust me. And he has like the huge teddy bear behind his back. I was like, you know, I think that's so true of life in a lot of ways. And maybe on the other side of these injuries, or the other side of any huge traumatic event in our life, it could be that. You know what I mean? Like that was what kept me going. Because there was a lot of times, like I said, I think if I had focused on how bad it really was, oof, you know what I mean? Like I don't think I would have made it. So that is where that comes from.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, as Eric said, it shines through. I mean, the optimism, you and I, you know, we share that. It doesn't seem like there's no shortage of it. And I think that it's helpful because,
Mm-hmm.
again, to your point, you know, a lot of people, they go through these circumstance and they get dealt this shitty hand. And they'll
Yeah.
look at it and they sit there and it's like, fuck, it's like World Series of Poker, right? They put the camera on them, they just sitting there like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like
Yeah.
that. And, you know, they got a bad hand, but it's like at the end of the day, okay, all right, you can fold and, you know, get a new one or whatever, but not harping on it is so important, because I think there's a lot outside of our psyche that is terrible enough given the state of the world. So why am I going to add to that with negative self-talk? And you know, and again, like I said, I'm not invalidating anybody's experience or their thought processes, but I always just try to help people get over that hill, because a version of you is on the other side that, again, is that larger teddy bear, which I think is a great analogy, right? But I think it also calls into the light the aspect of blind faith. And whether it's in religion or yourself. Sometimes in our injuries, all three of us, we have to consider the fact that we have to have blind faith in ourselves, because there's going to be a version of us that's going to fight through all of this that we don't even know exists yet. But guess what? You're going to have to roll through a hell of a storm to get there.
Yeah.
You know,
You have to. It's no way around it. And then it's like, you know, staying on the storm analogy, sometimes storms clear the way ahead. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people don't like to think about that. I'm in learning from nature and paying attention to nature. And it's so funny, our generation, millennials, we've been primed for it, because you think about all the little sneaky lessons in Avatar, which, like, when you go back and you unpack that shit, it was a lot of powerful Eastern philosophy, you know, principles that showed up in that show. I think about the one where King Bumi was talking to Aang about neutral chi and the idea of just staying still, you know what I mean? And letting things unfold instead of going, I have to do left, right, good, bad. I got to do something, you know what I mean? Just kind of letting life happen around you. And it was so funny because he was from the Earth Kingdom, which are grounded individuals. And I could go on forever with the nature thing, but like there is definitely there's definitely been something that you said about like how in tune we are with different parts of you said psyche, but like how nature can assist us. And when you think about fire or storms or anything that would wipe an area out, on one hand, it's like, God damn, it is horrific. It is horrendous. We are all in LA. We saw it with the fires firsthand. It was like, this is horrifically beautiful. Like, look at what Mother Nature is capable of. This shit's crazy. But in the sense of those huge catastrophic events that they wiped away, then it's like, now you have fertile ground. And anybody who ever planted anything, they'll tell you about scorched earth and the power behind it. You know what I mean? Like, now you have fertile ground to plant something. What are you going to grow moving forward? Because all the other stuff's gone. The crops are gone. You know what I mean? Everything else is out here. That storm came back and poured all of this up. Now what? And that to me is what these injuries are. They're a huge fire. They're a storm. They're a drought. They're the parts of nature that the things from nature that we can learn when all the resources are pulled away. But look at what happens in the aftermath of it. And it's so funny when I moved out here. I remember the first winter I was out here. I'm not saying I did this, but like it had rained way more than it had ever rained out here. Not ever, but like in a while. Because the 2010s, it was the droughts and it was the crazy fires. And the first winter I got out here, 2022, it was like a month. They was losing their damn mind. You'd have thought the world was in it again. Like they was really like, I can't believe it's raining this much out here. And I just remember being out one day and I was like, this is so symbolic, going back to water, of what's happening in this world. I was like, this is going to be great. And like I said, I'm talking to Californians. They ain't want to hear none of that shit. But sure enough, afterwards, we start going on hikes together. I go to, I live on Mount Washington and I'm like looking out and it's like, I've never seen this look so lush. I've never seen this look so green. It's like, think about that. Like, think about how much rain had to come to a place like this to grow something beautifully afterwards. You know what I mean? And how much y'all hated that period. Like, they was really out here losing their shit. But like, look at what this has brought about and look what this done and look how overdue this is. For me, my injury was that. You know what I mean? Like I said, going back to what I said with Eric, like that is why this energy is coming through. Obviously, when we meet, when we link up, we could talk about it more, but I got a whole philosophy on this shit when it comes to the weather.
Well, no, we definitely gonna give it that. I mean, I think
For sure.
I kind of just want to talk about like, I think we're doing a double game breaker here almost, like Back to NBA Street Volume 2, right?
Yeah.
You throw it out the backboard, and then I go get it. I'm gonna throw it out the backboard to you, and you're gonna mash it home, right? But I think there's a lot to be said because it's a perfect segue into this perfect ground for creation. Because again, drought, your life, there's rain coming down. Now you have the perfect conditions that are met to create.
Yeah.
So how are you creating your best work today?
For me, a huge part of it is pacing. It's so funny. I actually had a call with a lady earlier this week. I released a book. I did a TED talk called I Can Move Mountains. And it was talking about, the idea that you are, that we have to just go and listen to it. Because I got to be honest, I don't even know all the points. 17 minutes long. But the TED talk made me realize that I've always had to start over. Like I said, I moved a lot as a kid and basketball started late and the injuries happened. So I had to transition and broadcast was going good and COVID happened. I had to keep pivoting and turning and switching. And then all the odd jobs I had after basketball, just staying afloat and becoming a regular civilian. It's like, Clark Kent. It's like, ain't no turn to Superman now. You gotta deal with this shit as Clark Kent. As I kept having these feelings and going through these different things in life, I realized like there's a lot that I have to offer as far as helping people through transitions because my life has been transition. So I wrote a book and I rushed it. And I hate that I rushed it because I put it out prematurely and not all the ideas were, panned out. And I'm saying all this to say, it got me to a point nowadays where I'm not creating in a rush and I'm creating from a place of the middle ground between the discipline that you have to have in athletics, whereas I have to push my body and my mind past where it says, stop. And the freeness that you have from, oh, I have this idea creatively that a lot of creators run on heavy. And being in a town like LA, it showed me how it's a pendulum, and too far one way or the other is bad. I was still using my athletic mind when I first got hurt, in the sense of I'm gonna just push through and thug through this in a way that I didn't allow life to happen. I didn't allow myself to heal properly, which is probably why my injury took as long as it did. But I was holding on to that. And then I swung too far into the, I'm just gonna create when I feel like it, and I'm just gonna let things come in naturally, and then instead of, forcing it anyway. And then I felt myself go too far, and then I got up to LA and saw, this is why shit doesn't happen on time out here, because there's too many people who have no concept of, you know what I mean? Like, it's just that shit we need more of that. We need more than people. It's like, yo, we said 9 a.m. call time. It's 9:15. Why you just strolled it in? You know what I mean? You should have been here at 8:50. Like, there is a certain, it's really just left brain and right brain. There is a certain structural left brain way of thinking that you have coming up on the East Coast and coming up in a place that's so sports ran like Philly, and so masculine energy based like a Philadelphia. It's literally the city of brotherly love. And then you get to a place like Los Angeles, and it's more of a feminine energy, and it's more of it's not as structural or linear as the left brain Philly. It's more right brain. It's more creative. It's more free flowing. It's more circular. It's a feminine based energy. And for me, creation as of late has been, let's bring them together. Let's use some of that athletics will teach you with 5 a.m. practices and cold tubs and shit like that. But let's also not force this, and not let go of the gift of something coming in the moment, and coming from you just living life and some of your best ideas coming to you, as opposed to, I need something right now. I've been creating from a space of balance, I guess, is the best way to answer your question after all that.
We got to have you on for round 2, because you are hitting every theme that
I appreciate you.
Been brought out. This is season 2 for the Chronic Couch, and what you just said, I can encapsulate into acceptance, coming to a place,
yeah.
Right? Coming to it, but your perspective of it, like, that's why this is such an amazing thing that we're doing and building these communities, because everyone has different perspectives, and I have not related to a guest like I have today, with just the prospect of bringing athleticism and extreme timelines, whether it's on your body or getting ready for a game, a competition, a deadline at work, into morphing that into a place of what this injury has done to my body and my soul, and finding, as you said, when the pendulum swings, is what we're all just wanting and striving for, peace and acceptance, right?
Yes.
So beautifully said, and I hope you are down to come on again.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, no, we gonna switch it up for round 2, because what I will say is, like, the running joke with us, Ray, is this is a no budget, like, not low budget. This is a no budget production, right? But
Did you see me after you saw me turn off my TV, because I'm like, I don't have lights in here. I'm like,
so we keep it as no budget as possible on purpose. But I think because we want to be real, right? But I think as we, especially with guests like yourself, who really kind of captured the essence of what we want to build, I think it goes without saying, as Eric mentioned before, a part 2 of this conversation needs to be in person. And like I said, we'll figure it out. I mean, between the 3 of us, we'll figure out how to logistically make it work. Like, I got my couple mics, we got our cameras and stuff like that. But no, like I said, I'm definitely doubling down on that sentiment, because I know, we're coming up on like an hour and a half almost. So I just think, like, it's been a minute for sure. But like I said, I think it's, if anything, it's a sign that it's, part 2 is coming. But I do want to give people kind of just like a synopsis of what you're working on now, and where they can find you in the meantime, until we do our thing for part 2?
I would say the first thing is to check out. You look up, my government name. You look up Rey Reynolds. Yeah, the light's done or whatever. You come out no budget. I'm sitting here. This is what's been lighting me the whole time. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here with this John. So yeah, that's why I say I respect it. Listen, I ain't knocking your hustle. But I would say start with the TED Talk. You type in on YouTube TED Talk Rey Reynolds, Darryl. I feel like that to me is the shortest form of my ethos that I can give somebody, and it's like just run with that. You know what I mean? I hope it. Eric, you said like relate to you, and I just that to me is the best when somebody feels like I'm a very empathetic person. It's why I got into acting, so it feels good to feel somebody like can relate to you and connect with somebody on a level that is more than a what's up, man.
And what's interesting too, and this is another conversation we're gonna have to have, is and another theme that I keep bringing up is the masculinity, and then coupled with the femininity vibe of California, and how and remember I was a gymnast, so I already had to deal with all that shit.
Yes.
Even though gymnastics started as a guy's sport. So yeah, we definitely got to keep this going.
Yeah. No, we definitely. Yeah, we're gonna wrap. We're gonna wrap. But Ray Gatsby on TikTok, Ray.Gatsby on TikTok. I'm about to start really putting up stuff on there and stop messing around. I should have did the dances in 2020. I messed up. but
bro, that's how I always tell people we were too good. But then again, like, bro, we too damn big. You and I especially are too damn big for that shit.
I'm not doing that shit. Up there looking like Dr. Strange. Like, kiss my ass. I ain't doing that. But I am about to start putting up content because it is something to be had. So Ray.Gatsby, Ray Gatsby. That's REY. Like I said, the TED Talk, Rey Reynolds on YouTube. And yeah, that's really it for right now. I don't, you know what I mean? Like I'm doing the acting thing. It's been great. SAG, the SAG union, which is the actors union, has hit me with a must join. So it feels good to be in a spot where I've worked enough to where it's like, all right, bro, stop playing around. I really got to join it. It's a good club to be a part of. I have a project coming out later this year I can't speak on, but I think the time I'm on here again, that will have dropped. So then I can talk about that. And that it was something that was very exciting and kind of a milestone for me too. But yeah, right now it's those are pretty much the channels, and it's going to grow from there. I'm gonna get into this YouTube thing a little bit more, but for right now, I'm building. I finally got some time to figure out where I want to go and what I want to do once again. So it's like, all right, let's really be strategic moving forward. But Ray Gatsby, that's Ray REY, is where you can find me pretty much.
All right. No, that's the mic drop we needed, bro. I think that is it's a great just like I said, it's honestly just a halftime. Into whenever we can get together. We gonna chop offline first because now I finally got at least 2 healthy working legs so I can get my black ass outside. So that's a good start. And then but yeah, like I said, man, thank you again for sharing your story. Like just in the commentary I hear from our guests, they're gonna love this. They're gonna love the longer form episode too, I think, because again, it's just you do a great job of helping people really just grasp complex concepts, right? And Eric and I talk about that sometimes, just like in our day-to-days, right? And it's so refreshing to hear that because a lot of people, they get overwhelmed with the destination, or they get overwhelmed with the journey and the destination, right? But it's like, no, you don't realize that it's just one step in front of the other. So, you do a great job of that. And again, I watched a little bit of the TED Talk too. So again, I think it also encapsulates what you're trying to say. So I'll be tagging that in the descriptions. And then like the stuff that Eric and I do on the back end with socials. But yeah, when we drop this one, man, it'll be good. And just know that people out there, part 2 is on the way. We're gonna be able to announce some of those projects that you've been talking about. And yeah, bro, like I said, I appreciate your time tonight. I know we're coming up on an hour and a half. Thank you to the guests who stuck with us this entire 90 minutes, the Chicago to Milwaukee drive. It's definitely been a good one. And Eric, what you got before we sign off, bro? Or go ahead and take us home.
I got nothing. Ray, it was a pleasure. And I look forward to continuing the conversation on camera and off camera. And yeah, until next time, Chronic Couch, Chris, Ray, Eric, we out of here.
Peace. Y'all know where to find us.
Appreciate y'all.